Thank you very much for joining us on the Voice of Job Seekers. This is Mark, and if you want to know more about the show, know more about me or guests, you can go to thevoiceofjobseekers.com, and you can press the speak pipe button on the right, and you can message even, or you can email me at mark@thevoiceofjobseekers.com. Today I have a special guest, and we're actually doing this in front of each other live, as opposed to doing it through Skype or Zoom or some of the other ways that I've done over the past, which most of the interviews are. We're here at Starbucks. I'm here with Dr. Nichelle Manuel. She is an adjunctpreneur. In other words, she is a professor at several different colleges here, Prairie State being one of them, and DeVry Keller School is another. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And just want to welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, you're very welcome. And actually, you're about to help thousands of people today. As if some of you keep up with what I write in the articles, and I wrote an article lately, last fall, in fact, to DuckDuckGo, and I included one of Dr. Nichelle's quotes about Facebook and setting privacy. So I can point you to that article if you go to the show notes once the show is published. In the meantime, we're going to have sort of we're literally having a coffee conversation. Well, I got tea, but nevertheless, kind of, black tea grande, light lemonade. If you guys want to send me a little something, that's okay, but I'm just kidding. But anyway, data security and privacy is a big deal these days. It's becoming a bigger deal. And you probably have experienced it yourself as you've gone to sites and they're asking for a little bit more intrusive information than usual. You're seeing Google kind of asking you if you're real or not.
Right.
You're seeing a lot of different changes throughout the years that you haven't seen in the past. So Dr. Nichelle is going to help us navigate this slightly, and hopefully you'll get a lot of value out of it. Of course, you can always ask questions again after the show. You can always contact me. And if we need to do another one of these to answer those questions, we'll be glad to do that as well. Dr. Nichelle, you'd be in if you're...
Yes, I'll be great. It would be great to do that.
Yeah, that would be interesting, and sometimes that happens. Now, I've given my take on why security is a big deal. You and I have been connected for a long time.
I know, right? Yes.
For probably about 7 or 8 years now. But a lot of things have changed since then.
A lot of things have changed.
So how important is security and privacy these days to kind of take a little bit more time to evaluate in your own usage of the Internet?
I think about when people ask how important is cybersecurity, information security, and data security, I ask, how important is it to eat healthy? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we're supposed to eat healthy, we're supposed to do certain things, but we don't.
Right.
And when dealing with cybersecurity, data to me is the new currency. Mm-hmm. Data to me is the new currency. And think about, why would you lock your house? Mm-hmm. Why would you have an alarm on your car? Mm-hmm. Why would you make sure no one access anything of your being? It's extremely important. So when we end up looking at why it can change your entire life. I'm just getting excited right now and thinking about this right now, because in the beginning, when we was just talking about earlier, I don't know if you all can remember back in the day when we had our driver's license or had our school ID, the Social Security number would be on there. Social Security numbers were not initially to be there for identifying a person. Mm-hmm. It was not for security-wise. Mm-hmm. Now we don't have it. So it's very important because it can change your life totally. We have something called confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So in order for the information and the data, because data is stuff. Mm-hmm. When we organize the data, it becomes information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that information can come from all different parts. For example, me and you here are talking together.
Mm-hmm.
We have our phones. There's the data called metadata.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the phones, well, they don't supposed to listen to what we're saying, but us being here together, the metadata can say, you two are at this particular location at this time.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is data, but is that really important for somebody else to know how to track you down where you are? So it comes to a point when it deals with cybersecurity, intrusiveness of our life. What's happening to our life? How can people access what we're doing? How can they, for example, I'm thinking about when we found out that the data of someone I knew had changed around to show that they had an error on their credit report. The error on their credit report stated that he had foreclosed on a home.
Wow.
Had not paid a cell phone bill. Had not, all the credit was just messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So this, we found out, it was a merged credit report.
Really?
And it's something that he didn't do. It's something that hackers had went in and changed this information around.
Wow. And the reason why I'm astonished, because, there are companies, when they do credit checks for people that they're planning to hire, and we can banter back and forth whether it's legal, if it's not legal, but the main point is that if people who are vulnerable can actually have their life altered just by a switch of one line of false credit information.
Right.
That's crazy.
A sheriff, this guy told me a sheriff came down to his house, knocked on his door to serve him, to say he was in foreclosure.
What?
At a whole nother house.
And it was not true, but yet it's on his credit report.
It's on his credit report. So I'm thinking, okay, what would have happened if he was looking for a job, and some jobs look at your credit in order to hire you?
Yeah.
Now, if they're doing that, now you have this black eye on your credit report stating that you're in foreclosure or you're not credit liable.
Right.
Now you can't get the job, and
right.
you don't know that you're not. That's the reason I'm not turning you down. They're just telling you you're not going to get the job.
And that's so interesting because employers they often outsource that information, their credit report, and they just get back data. That's for the most part that they would know. And if there's anything that's a serious red flag, they wouldn't have privy to that information, but it could be in the red, so to speak.
Right. Also, I had a friend. I got all these friends.
Yeah, right.
She was told that by a life insurance company that she was deceased.
Wow.
So she couldn't get life insurance because, according to her report, it's not even credit report. It was according to the Social Security Administration. She was deceased.
Wow. Wow.
It took years to fix that.
Sure. I remember the first time I pulled mine a few years ago, and this was in the bowels of the recession. I was working at the Boys Club. No, the Jewish Community Center. This was 1979. It was 25 years before, or 20-something years before that. It's like, and it was on my credit report on one of the reporting bureaus. I thought that was the strangest thing. Now, I didn't pay too much attention at the time because a lot of people were at that time having what they call false positives, in the sense that there was false information, but it's not harmful, it's just outdated, which is also critical to kind of get that stuff off now, being that people are taking that data from the credit bureaus a little bit more seriously than they are.
Right. And what's so amazing, not so amazing, I ain't gonna say funny, amazing, was we give our data willingly.
Sure we do.
We give our data willingly.
Yeah.
We don't care. We're just transparent, don't know why they're using the information, don't know why they're using the data. And I believe the human being, a person, is the weakest link. I'm not going to blame the companies. I'm not going to blame the organizations. I'm not going to blame the device people who create the Internet of Things devices. At the bottom line, we need to make sure that we are not doing things that's going to make us vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting, and I've been reading a lot about lately. I'm considering my own use of the Internet, even whether or not I'm going to continue using Google.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I think people have heard me talk a little bit about DuckDuckGo.
I use DuckDuckGo.
And that's because they're not intrusive on the privacy. And that's what they promise. As soon as you go there to DuckDuckGo.com,
right,
you can navigate. And I think that's important for you guys to know, because you're looking for information, you're looking for intel as much as you possibly can. You're researching a company, you're trying to find a company, that you would like to work for, then you want to go apply. And that shows up. If you don't have like a website or anything, you may not know how people are searching for you or searching for those terms. And Google provides that information. Of course, we gave Google that
permission to go ahead and
do it. And therefore, if you go to your analytics, it shows you the keywords that people are using to find you. DuckDuckGo, they can't track that information. So pretty much I'm starting to alter the way I use it. Or I use the privacy window, which or the new incognito on Chrome. And, of course, all the browsers now have an incognito window that you can go to, and you can find to surf the Internet more quietly, if you will. But that's kind of a big deal in the sense that, if you're surfing and also using the social networks, and you wonder how ads come up, how do they know I liked this, that, and the other? All the intel is beginning to...
When you end up going to the grocery store, now, how did they know? You look at the coupon on the back of the grocery store, it's something that you purchased or you even talked about. I don't know how it happens. You talked about it, I'm like, wow, I was just talking about this particular item, but I'm going to the grocery store, then they print out a coupon, and the coupon has that particular item on my coupon.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. I'm just like, how is that connecting?
I heard a report that Target started something where they are able to customize their advertising to the individual, not just to an area. As far as your habit, your patterns, and the way that you buy, and all that. All that to say is that now I think just trying to give you an understanding of how that you need to start taking a little bit more seriously, that as you're beginning to look for a job, especially if you're unemployed, you're the most vulnerable.
Yes.
Because they're looking for information. Well, not looking for information, but you're making that information and intel available to people who want to take advantage and target you.
And hopefully people be more proactive. A lot of times we're reactive, and when something happens to us, now we're paying attention to everything.
Yes.
And I look at that when people who are not eating healthy, and they don't think about eating healthy until they end up having diabetes or a heart attack. Now I'm going to watch what's happening, what's going on. Go ahead and be proactive and start doing things that you must do already.
Yeah.
For instance, when you're out, make sure your Bluetooth, if you're not using Bluetooth, turn it off. If you're not using locator, turn it off on your phone. There's certain things that if you're not using Wi-Fi, turn it off. And then get your VPN on your phone, on your device. I'm going to say your phone is a device, on your device.
Anything that's
and what a VPN is, a virtual private network. They don't cost them. I recommend get the paid version. Don't get a free version.
So being that Mac has its own VPN, you recommend using a paid version.
I recommend. The reason why I'm saying get a paid version, because free's not free. So you're paying for that some type of way.
Good point. So what's the best VPN software?
The one I use is IPVanish. I use IPVanish. You can have up to 10 devices to log in, and up to 10 devices $10 a month.
Really?
So I use that on my laptops, at home, when I'm using my Fire Stick.
And I'll be using that too before.
So yeah, I use IP Vanish. They have a good track record, make sure everything is good. And I'm just saying what I use.
Right. And the reason why VPN is important as opposed to using the public Wi-Fi is that you're invisible to the actual service.
Yeah, you can see when you're going on. So think about when you're going down a tunnel, and they see you going in, then they see you coming out, but they don't see what you're doing while you're going through the tunnel.
Gotcha.
So everything is happening right there.
Yeah, so it blacks out whatever data is being accessed or being entertained.
And it's not new, but most people who work for corporate understand what a VPN, because most corporations have always use VPN when you're connecting to their network. Now, us as regular people need to go ahead and make sure we have our VPN.
Yeah. So the things that you've probably seen, and you've probably seen a whole bunch of things, you've heard a lot of things about how harmful privacy can be. And we've talked about a little bit, but as a job seeker, it's probably if you're looking for a new job and if you're unemployed, especially those who are in the federal sector now, who are kind of, they're furloughed. Talk a little bit about why having this privacy aspect is important for them at this time as well.
Well, I'm looking at wage garnishment that can occur. Again, we're talking about it virtually can kill you. You can be deceased. You're trying to go get federal aid and everything. You're deceased. You're no longer there. Employee-related identity theft. Someone can work as you.
Yeah.
They're using your social security number and they're you.
Right. Or even they can work virtually as you.
Right.
In another country.
Yes.
And you don't know how that company is using your data.
Right.
And they can probably use that data over and over again if you're not cognizant enough. That is just the wildest thing. But I think a lot of them are they worked in this bubble for so long.
Right. And people don't know. I also tell, make sure you get your credit check.
Yeah.
It's done free.
Yeah, I just had mine done.
You do it with the three bureaus, see what's on there, see what's going on. And what's so great about what's happening with cybersecurity, I believe the government is really, really extremely working with people. They're all working with people to make sure people can make sure their identity is not stolen. They're make sure they're okay on the work side, because you have offices at the state level to contact. This month it is this is January, right? January is that's October. October is cybersecurity. January is data security.
Okay.
Data security. We have our data privacy day. January 28th, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, a couple weeks.
So we talk about data privacy and what people need to do when to make sure their data is private. And understand, data is not information. It's just a lot of information that's out there to make sure someone can bring these analytics together and figure out who you are. I tell everybody, there's no such thing as anonymity. There's no such thing. You think you're like, no, you end up, okay, this male, female, that cuts the numbers in half.
Right.
Okay, now we're coming from this particular zip code that brings it down. Now let's look at the race, it brings it down. Then let's look at the income level, it brings it down. So the anonymity is not there.
Right. And I've had another guest on that had definitely promoted that people should start taking off the website their birth dates.
Yes.
And their wedding dates and all those things, so that you're not personally identifiable to people, again, to predators.
Right.
Not particularly to your family and friends. You think, well, my family and friends should know that, but it's not just your family friends who are looking at your profile.
Right. You have to know how to lock down your profile. You make sure it's not shared with everyone. Make sure when you are tagging somebody, understand, especially what has changed in Facebook, if you tag somebody else, now they're seeing your information that's on your page. It wasn't like that before.
Or once you share it,
now it's on
vulnerable.
there. So make sure you do your social media updates at least once a month, because you never know what's going to change.
Right.
Yesterday, the big breach that just happened with it was a breach that happened in telling people to go to a particular website and type in your email to see if you are vulnerable to that particular breach. Because a lot of people, when you do your password, a lot of people use their password, their name and 123A or exclamation point and things like that.
Or the same password.
For everything. And you don't do that. You
Right.
need to have your separate password for your bank account, another different password for your emails.
Yeah.
Easy thing that I use a password manager and have a real strong password for the password manager, and I allow the password manager to create my password.
Yeah.
The longer the better, 24 letters and characters. Don't do 8, don't do 6,
Right.
do not do.
Right.
And
or at least mix them up so
Mix
that they
them up.
won't be, especially if I was told, don't have it end with a letter.
no.
Always end with a character, because the bots can't crypt or identify a asterisk or a pound sign or exclamation mark.
And I tell people use a passphrase, not a password. For example, if I'm looking at the table is round, but the letter TH3 exclamation 5 for is.
Right.
So you change it with symbols and
Yeah.
use a passphrase instead of a password, because they're going to think about what words you use all the time.
Yeah. I have relatives that often talk about, I use the same password for everything.
And I'm like,
I just go,
but guess
gosh.
what? They're not going to change their ways until something happens to them.
And that's the only way they do it.
I did that to my son. I was like, change your password, change
Yeah.
your password, change your password. Kept telling him. He didn't do it. So his mom decided to break into his emails, decided to break into his social media account, and I destroyed it.
Wow.
So he ended up learning by something happening to him.
Right.
So now he does better with the password. Well, he did, but that's when he was at the house. So you can change your password. So I made his life miserable for about a day to let him see how this is what will happen.
Right. That's so wow. They have usually it's the other way around. The kids are hacking mom. Mom is hacking.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is, again, for you guys to start taking a little bit more precautions. And I guess everything now is reactive. It's not so much proactive these days, because all these things have already happened to people.
Right. Also, what's good, make sure you use the two-factor authentication.
Yes, I do that.
Make sure you do that. Some people don't like doing it because it's a little cumbersome or it's an extra step. But if you're putting a password in, now they're going to send you a message on your mobile device, and you're putting in that code. That's the two-step authentication. And we used that back in the 30s. In early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s, when I worked for a company, we would have something called it was a doggle, a little token, and we would have the password. And once we have the password, we would see a code on that little device.
Right.
And then that was the code we would put in.
Now you have your phone. They could send a text to.
Right.
Especially if it's Gmail, I think it's critical to have that two-step authentication for Gmail, because there's so much information. And Google just allows you to say, hey, you can use these applications all these private documents that you can store up on. And it's almost unlimited.
It is unlimited space.
Yeah. So it's encouraging to do that, but you've got to take the extra step then to do your two-step. So I hope you're listening and starting to react to some of this information here. What are some extra precautions that might be a little kind of going out the way?
The extra precautions that I'm telling people, Christmas time, a lot of people went and purchased Internet of Things devices. What do I mean? People have their Fire Sticks, they have their Echo, they purchase their thermostat, they may have their different smart doorbell, and they're so happy. I can tell I can tell who's at my door. I can just look it up on my computer, on my phone, who's at my door. So what's happening? According to Fast Company, yesterday's article, January 16th, 2019, the companies who create these devices, they do not have to worry about security. They do not have to worry about security. So now you're connecting these devices to the internet. Connecting these devices to the internet, that's a door open for somebody else to come into your house to steal your data. Not physically into your house, but virtually into your house.
Right.
I suggest make sure, because most routers that we have in our houses now have is dual. It's dual band, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Change the ones that you're using for your devices on. Most likely it's going to be the 5 gigahertz. Change it to that one, or create a second SSID. That's your Wi-Fi network. Create your second Wi-Fi network. Most routers allow you to have multiple channels for your Wi-Fi. Create the second one. The second one with a separate password, that's where you end up using your Internet of Things devices. You do not put the Internet of Things devices on the same network as your computers that you're paying bills with, that you're putting your email in, that you're putting your credit card numbers into when you're on the computer.
Right.
You have it on a whole separate network. Because what can happen, some firmware or some small malware can be on these devices now. A worm is collecting your information, sending it back somewhere to use to be sold through the dark web.
So if I have Norton on my computers, am I safe?
No. That's one precaution.
Gotcha.
That's one precaution. That's one way. It's a layer of security. Yes, make sure you have Norton. Make sure you have your virus and spamware protector. Now you need to create another layer, another type of firewall.
Right. So should I use my VPN at home?
Yeah, you can use your VPN at home. When I pay my bills, I turn my VPN on at home.
Interesting. Should you have your VPN on all the time?
I don't, because when I'm using, say for instance, if I'm looking at Netflix or Hulu, you can't have the VPN on. They don't allow it. But when I'm doing anything that's very important,
You're exchanging data.
I have my VPN on. But it's automatic with me. It's automatic. As soon as I'm going to change in data, automatic, I'm turning the VPN on.
Gotcha.
It's second nature to make sure I'm paying bills, VPN on.
So even if you have a Mac,
even if I have a Mac, I turn my VPN. Yep. If I have my Mac.
Yeah. Well, what went around for a while was that the Mac was safe and it's safer and
which is a huge misnomer.
Yes. Yes.
Because I tell people malware virus is a program.
Yeah.
And anybody want to do something, they want to do the most damage wherever. And I believe the more people start using Mac or Apple type of products, the bad guys are going to say, guess what? We're going to focus on Apple products.
Sure.
That's what we want to focus on.
Right. Wow.
So the human being, to me, is the weakest link. Who is the weakest link? The human being is the weakest link. Things that you can do on your own to make sure it does not happen to you. But again, paying bills, I turn my VPN on. If it's emails that I'm sending that I don't want to know what's going on with a particular email, I turn my VPN on. When I'm searching, I use DuckDuckGo. I do not use Google. What else? Those are, and especially when you have your Internet of Things, find ways to make sure you can set it up on a dual network, a separate SSID, a separate Wi-Fi. A lot of people, when I talk to people about setting up their Wi-Fi, it's like, well, I know my
Internet password.
My internet password, get onto the Wi-Fi.
Right.
I'm like, what's the router password? Back in the day, we used to have we used to have our Wi-Fi router and our internet router.
Yeah.
Now they're they're one device with both. So I tell people, I'm like, you all have 2 usernames and 2 passwords. A lot of time for the router is, you can look it up. You can look up the name of the router. You can say, what is the router username and password? Most times it's admin password. That has to be changed.
Yeah.
Now the password to get onto the internet, I know here with Xfinity, it's on the back of the router. It tells you that.
Right.
But it's 2 usernames and passwords, and people don't know it's 2.
Wow.
Even the people who come in to do the installation of the routers, I'm like, I was like, I forgot the IP address to get to the router. What is for my admin? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, yes, you do. It's something. I was like, that's okay. I'll look it up. Go in, I change it from admin password because it is, the username is admin, the password is password.
Right. You got to change it to something.
I go ahead and change it. And then you have your internet username and password, which for your SSID. So go in, make sure you change both of those username and password.
Right. Now, when you use Xfinity and a lot of these services, you can't use characters as a password. You can only use either the numbers or the letters.
Right.
So having that extra layer, it makes it harder for people to intrude on your privacy.
Your privacy and what's going with your data, what you're doing every day. And I'm like, I guess people really don't. You don't know. I guess it's the paranoid.
Right. Well, again, we're talking about protection and being proactive.
Proactive, right.
Instead of waiting till something happens
right.
and then you've got to spend a day or 2 a week, a month,
right,
having to correct and authenticate your usage of your data.
Right.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about social media settings and privacy settings. And that's also becoming a great big deal.
Yes.
Especially those of us who use Facebook on a regular basis.
People, you have to make sure you watch out what you're having on Facebook and everything. And the thing about it, the generation is changing on who use Facebook. The demographic is changing on who use Facebook. And the older people need to know what they should or should not put on there because they're on there all the time.
Yes.
And also when you're job hunting, when you're in school, the different things that you did as a teenager, it can come right back up on social media. So you have to make sure you go and lock down social media. Make sure it's not shared with public. There's another...
If you want to share your more intimate parts of your life.
Right.
There are things I think that people want to be found for if it's professional.
Right. It's good. You have your professional.
That will be the part you want people to find, and to some degree you want to lead them so that they'll find it.
Right.
Make it positive. But we're talking about something that's a little bit more intimate, like maybe even graduation dates might be to a certain degree private or public, depending upon
what you want them to show. So you decide on the persona of whatever you want to show on social media, but you have to make sure you do your... I tell people, make sure Facebook has something as your privacy checkup.
Yeah.
It allows you to go through the privacy checkup, make sure what you're sharing. Go on social media, download your pictures, and delete those folders sometime. It's just like you would go into your closet and clean out things in your closet. Go through the social media and clean out the things on your closet for your Facebook, your Instagram, your Snapchat, your Twitter. You have
right.
What, your Pinterest, all the different type of...
Right. That's interesting you should say that. I think you've done this because we've been following each other for years now, but on your Instagram, I think you alter your pictures.
Yes.
You change your pictures up. And that got me thinking I should start doing that for mine. But the other thing is that people don't realize that Facebook owns Instagram.
Yes.
And that's why sometimes what you said on Facebook, you see that ad on Instagram
yes.
because of what you put on Facebook.
Right.
So even that crossover is a big deal because we're talking about a couple of billion people have access to that or able to access if you have privacy settings set on either. But the less privacy settings you have, the more vulnerable that makes it for Facebook and Instagram predators to use that to make life, more difficult for you.
Yeah, and sometimes, and also when you're looking for a job, I can understand sometimes employers, let's see what's on the page. Let's see what's on there. But if you don't mind sharing what you did to show who you are on the professional side, go ahead and make it global and let everyone see what's going on.
Right.
So it's certain things. You can control what's being shown on the social media.
And then you can have another page on, like Instagram, you can have a public page and a private page.
Right, exactly. So just be very, know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just be aware of what's going on social media. I can tell certain things that, especially the older gen, like my mom, I'm like, Mom, change your settings to family, because we have the family setting where just the family, or you can create groups for just family, what's going on.
And you can even create, on Facebook, you can alter to specific people.
Right.
And just let those people see it, and
what's
everybody
going
else they can't see it.
But you have to always make sure you check your settings, because sometimes Facebook go in and do something and the
Yes.
settings has to be reset all over again.
Yes, and I've seen that happen too many times where I'm going, wait a second, I thought I had that in private.
Right.
So
make
and then
sure you
ends
check
up
it.
being public.
So you have to check that. So it's just be very, very aware of what's happening on social media and what you're doing. I was just talking to a group of teenagers the other day, and I was like, they need to create a law or pass some type of law that said what kids did as a teenager,
Right.
it can be wiped out.
Right. But then again, the individual responsibility of, you see the stuff that you had when you were 13, 14.
Right.
And it wasn't with a whole lot of thought, you should go ahead and take those things off.
Right, to go in and take it off, go ahead and delete it. Because I'm thinking about people, the first social media, not the first, but the one, MySpace. I don't know if anybody remember MySpace.
Of course.
And MySpace, the pictures are still out there. You can go log in, see what your pictures are there, and go delete them, get rid of them.
Yeah, I wasn't a big user of MySpace, but probably my first big one was, I probably signed up for Twitter before I signed up for MySpace.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was late to the party for one and early to the party for the other. That was 2008, I think I signed up for Twitter. But, it's this is all fascinating. Again, this is so that you can get out in front of your usage and what's exposed to the public and what's exposed to predators. And this is not to scare you. This is to inform you, to make sure that you are making anything else that we need to know about privacy you haven't mentioned.
Don't click on any links that's sent to your. A friend of mine sent me a message, and she received a text with a link in there, and she was like, Nichelle, I have this link. What is it? And it was talking about, we have pictures. It was talking about certain pictures and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, you didn't click on that link, did you? And she's like, yes, I did. So I was like, we need to do a scan. We need to look at what's going on. You need to get a scan and see what's out there now on your device. Do not click on any links that's coming to your devices. And I'm not saying phone, because it could be your tablet, it's your smartphone, anything, your email. So a lot of times we're used to the email.
Right.
I'm not going to click on that link. But when it comes to our phone, we're like, okay, how did they get this information? Maybe I need to look at it.
And there's some common sense to it. I mean, usually links have cryptic characters that are there. If it's something that's if it's from a source that you trust more so than, and I say that trust, something that from CNN may not necessarily be from CNN.
Right.
And why would they personally send you a link anyway?
Right.
So you've got to answer. You've got to kind of ask those questions and kind of beware. If it's from you, I'm going to click it because I know you don't have the intention of.
Right.
As far as I go, but
still, personal responsibility. The weakest link.
Absolutely. And I think if people know you're looking for a job, you become a target.
Yes.
And you don't want to become a victim. as a result.
Because I can just imagine somebody knows all these people are off of work now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine emails and messages that's going to people?
Yes.
Here, how you can make some extra money, or
Yes.
this is what's happening here. Click on this link. So they're going to look for the people who are vulnerable.
Yes, yes. And if you're out of work, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm out of work on a public page.
Right,
If
right.
anything, email someone, text someone, but don't put it out there for the taking.
Right,
And that way you won't become a target.
right. On any social media, even including LinkedIn.
Yes.
Watch out what you put on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and there are people who are waiting for people to put that stuff on it. And usually they have a bunch of takers, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly.
So if people want to know more about you and what you do, how can they contact you?
More about me, to contact me, you can contact me at Nichelle at Dr. Nichelle Dion. That's Dr. Nichelle, Nichelle, Dion, DIONNE.com. So Nichelle at drnichelleDion.com. Still working on the website, but that's going to eventually.
Yes, we talked about having a blog.
Right.
Yes,
So the URL is there.
Yes.
Still working on the web, and the email is there as well. On social media, Generation to Generation Foundation. That's why I'm there for that. And also Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on Generation to Generation.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was a long time coming.
I know, yes.
This is fantastic.
Yes.
And for the rest of you who are listening, and hopefully you'll enjoy this show and the other shows that we have in the archive as well. In the meantime, I guess we'll see you next time on the Voice of Job Seekers podcast. Thanks for listening.